second annual General Conference of the Nigerian Bar Association was held here at the International Conference Center in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Now, it's no more news that President Goodluck Jonathan declared the conference open, but on this episode of Law Weekly, we show you some of the highlights from the week-long conference. I'm Shola Soyele, and this is Law Weekly. They arrived in twos and threes and some in groups from their different branches for the conference dubbed Abuja 2012 on Sunday the 26th of August. The registration process for the conference held at the A-Class Park, Maitama, also in Abuja. This was the same venue that hosted the delegates conference about 45 days ago when a new president of the NBA was elected. While registration was underway, a quick pre-conference meeting, the National Executive Council NEC meeting of the NBA, was held at the same venue. The NEC comprises all national officers of the association, all former national presidents and secretaries, all senior advocates of Nigeria, all members of the body of benchers, all branch chairmen, and some other co-opted members of the bar. Top on the agenda for discussion is the recently concluded elections of the association, which returned senior advocate of Nigeria, Okewale, as president of the NBA. The secretary of the Electoral Committee, Lady Debbie Obodoku, presented to the NEC on behalf of the electoral chairman, Prince Lanke Odogion, and other members of the committee, the report of the elections. The outcome of the NBA elections, though widely acclaimed to be largely free and fair, was strongly challenged by the main opponent, senior advocate of Nigeria, Emeka Ngige, who lost to Mr. Okewale by about 240 votes. Mr. Ngige had alleged rigging and monetization of the electoral process. In its recommendations aimed at improving the process, the Electoral Committee made a case for a reform. They advised that another look be taken at the delegate system of voting, which has been subjected to abuse. There was also a recommendation that the role of money in electioneering be urgently addressed. The committee also recommended that regional forums must be revisited and properly structured so that they do not drift to become tribal bodies. These recommendations predictably drew reactions from some of the NEC members.
As a practitioner on the field, I think I support that recommendation that the bar must do something about the the role of money in our elections. For instance, why should the president of the bar spend money to become president? Is he on salary? Why should the secretary or any position at all spend money and give accommodation? Mr. President, why?
I remember when late Alain Kabashono of blessed memory was alive. I was then very young at the bar. I wrote him a 4-page memo complaining about the regionalization of the NBA. At that time, one particular group was very, very focal and very vibrant. And I predicted rightly, I said the Muslims will come up with their own group soon. Today we don't have Class 1, we have Mullah. For a professional association in a multi-religious, plural society, the NBA should have been the group to promote national unity by example. So I want to appeal, Mr. President, at the House. We must revisit this issue. Don't let us legalize this thing. You see, the danger in these things, and I'm sure those of us who are here and those who are contested using this forum will attest to it. People who ordinarily will not win election in their own chambers now become warlords. Look at warlords within the NBA. Where are we going? Let me give you a personal example of what happened. To let you know that people have more than enough interest in our elections. I was with some governors long before the elections. And so one of them said, Madam, I said, yes. He said, this is your election. Whom are we going to support? To God. I'm serious. 3 governors said, whom are we? We. They are not lawyers. I said, you, what's your business? They said, look, NBA is too big for you to be left to your own device. I alerted some leaders of the bar then, including the president. If we have gotten so popular, quote and unquote, with politicians, then if we want our association to remain vibrant and stable, we must be very, very careful.
Malam Ali, there is a point which maybe in private I'll join issues with you. It is in trying to compare our own elections and the elections of the larger entity, that is Nigeria and the local government. No matter how long we spend in conducting our elections, the fact that we are judged it as transparent, free and fair, credible, is a credit to the time we spend. The time we spend has no correlation to the quality of the results. The people who go and spend a few hours and yet you hear multiple rigging, ballot box snatching, and the rest of them, I think is inversely proportionate to the time that is spent. So this is democracy. Whatever system we can adopt to ensure that we produce what is the will of the people, that is what we should adopt.
The next day, Monday, the 27th of August, lawyers were gathered at the International Conference Center for the opening ceremony of the NBA's annual General Conference. Security was extensive, and not everyone could gain access into the hall before the arrival of the special guest of honor, President Goodluck Jonathan. At the gates of the venue is an interesting sight. Lawyers of the Ikeja branch of the NBA have mobilized all the way from Lagos to condemn what they call the oppressive conference fees that the past President Joseph Daudu's administration had imposed for participation in this conference. Despite the protest, the show went on as soon as the President made his way to the high table. Also in attendance at this conference, the Governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha, Governor of Edo State, Adams Oshiomhole, Senate Leader, Senator Victor Ndoma-Egba, representing the Senate President, Chief Judge of the High Court of the FCT, Honorable Justice Lawal Gumi, President of the National Industrial Court, Honorable Justice Babatunde Adejumo, among other distinguished guests.
The conference theme, Nigeria as an emerging market, redefining our laws and politics for growth, appropriately extrapolates NBA's vision of what our focus as a nation should be at this critical period in our development of our democracy.
Keynote speaker, the Archbishop of the Sokoto Diocese, Reverend Father Matthew Hassan Kuka, thinks that Nigerians need to understand the past to determine where, how, and what it is emerging to.
I refer to Nigeria as a nation that is flying without a black box. And I say so because it is one country that I find with very, very total lack of interest in a subject that I think is so fundamental to everything that we represent, namely history. This is one country where you meet the average Nigerian, and it is amazing because you cannot, and I say it with due respect, I have not as yet found a scholar from the southeast of Nigeria who can talk very convincingly and eloquently about northern Nigeria, free of the prejudices. I have not found a scholar in Yoruba land that can talk about the Igbos in the most eloquent of manners. I have not found many scholars in the north who can speak about the west or about the east or about the minorities without the attendant prejudices. Clearly, we are a country where the average BBC reporter is far more informed about Nigeria than the rest of us. And I think that for me, all the conversations we are having about why things are not working, why this country is not growing, a lot of the conversations, if you just come into this country and pick up a newspaper, you think that a civil war is about to break out in Nigeria. So clearly, something must be wrong with us. And my conclusion is that it is this clear lack of an understanding of where we are coming from.
In his address, the president of the NBA dwelt on what is perhaps the most pressing issue in the nation today, the issue of security.
That law enforcement agencies are having a Herculean task combating terrorists and other like-minded criminals is a great source or grave source of concern for Nigerians. No reasonable economic activity can take place in such an environment. The remedy lies in monumental security reforms. The truth of the matter is that Nigeria is overripe for state and community police.
The opponents of state police only cite one constraint, Mr. President, which is that governors would use their respective state police to perpetuate their political interests in the run-up to elections. Cogent as that misgiving may appear, it is not an obstacle to the proper policing that state police will provide. It must be said outright that a police force is not created for political objectives or for the sole benefit of politicians who are less than 2% of the population.
Here is how President Goodluck Jonathan responded to that address.
President of NB, commented robustly on the issue of state police. And of course, I also listened to the ovation. And so maybe in a forum like this, it's good for us to share some of our experiences. There was one of the Council of States meetings we had. Of course, you know in Nigeria, the Council of State is the highest body. Though it's advisory by our constitution, but it's the highest body that can take decisions for this country. Though the decisions are advisory, can accept or reject. That's the council that all former heads of states are members. All former CJNs are members. Because the current president, the current vice president are members. All the serving governors are members. The attorney general is a member. That is the highest. I had a memo to present on state police. I come from the state. Everybody knows me. I was a deputy governor, then governor. And also in Bayelsa State, there was a time we felt so frustrated that we feel that if we have our own police force, then some of this criminality will be able to manage better because of our local environment. Police from other parts of the country find it difficult to enter the rivers, but for us who are born in the water, even in the night, we can enter ordinary canoe to move anywhere we want to. And we feel that if we have our local police, it may be better for us to handle. So we also have those kind of. But before we, traditionally, the former presidents meet in the serving president's office. You discuss certain things before you go for the meeting. And I raised that issue that I was going to present that. And they advised that yes, it's a good idea. Probably one day we'll get to that point. And that is the emphasis I want to place. One day we'll get to that point. But presently, we have to be careful in how we move.
At the showcase session later on Monday afternoon, the governors of Edo and Imo states further debated the pros and cons of the establishment of a state police when they x-rayed the topic, True Federalism, the Nigerian Dilemma.
I've had discussions before this time, and people say that state police. My question is, assuming Imo State is a nation, is a country, so I will not have police. And yet you have nations in Europe that are less than 2 million people. I don't know of any state in Nigeria that has less than 2 million people here. So every state is a fragment of a nation and must be so treated if this nation can move forward. I believe strongly that the federating unit must be given its due place. Our problem, second problem in Nigeria is over-centralization of political power. And that's why we suffer from what is called economic kwashiorkor. In other words, the principles of kwashiokorism, where you have the big head and very tiny legs, and so the economy is moving every time like it's going to fall. Until we fatten up the legs, which is called the federating units, then Nigeria is not good enough to be married. No man wants to marry any woman with a big head with tiny legs. You want to see her properly shaped in such a way that excuse me, class.
There is no question that the Nigeria police can do a lot better than it's doing. And when we talk of failed states, one of the features of a failed state is when you have an arrangement in which laws are hopelessly inenforceable, or those who are constitutionally charged with the responsibility to enforce law and order are so hopelessly incompetent in enforcement of law and order. We can say so much about the deficit in the police system, but I am not so sure that once you reorder the Constitution and create state police, that everything will simply disappear. And I think the best example for me is the fact that with all the criticisms we have against the National Electoral Commission, when we now compare it to the State Electoral Commission, which is decentralized, the way in which some of my brother governors have managed local government elections shows that if you were to put police force in the hands of those governors, they will become state thugs. And my advice to my brother governors when they talk about this is that it is fine for us today as governors to think that if we have state police in our hand, we can do so much with them. But we must also remember that maximum 8 years you are out of office. And if those powers are now inherited by a man who didn't deserve to be in his office, who see the state as his own personal estate and deploy the police exactly the same way the ruling party deployed thugs, life would be impossible, democracy would be scuttled, and Nigeria would be distant, miserable spectators in a game in which they ought to be the central drivers. And that is why I am not for state police, but it is not a vote of confidence for the Nigeria police. I believe there is a substantial room for reform, there is a substantial room to revisit how the police is controlled and how it is managed.
We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll wrap up the program with the swearing-in ceremony of the new president of the NBA.
You see, life has just got easier. You stay connected to Channels TV, where news and innovations are shaping our world. Simply log on to channelstv.com to get the breaking news. Browse the homepage according to what matters to you. Tap on the extended coverage of business, sports, politics, lifestyle, infotech, entertainment, health, world news, and lots more. Click on the live link and see the news in real time. Do you want to watch the latest video of the day? It's just a click away. Friend us on Facebook, YouTube, follow us on Twitter, Google+, participate in Channels TV poll, and share your comments. It's a website you can talk to. Your voice will be heard.
ChannelsTV.com. The news at your fingertips.
The different sections of the NBA held their sessions on Tuesday and Wednesday, while the annual general meeting was held on Thursday. The grand finale of the week-long conference, however, was the swearing-in ceremony of new national officials of the NBA, signaling the end of the J.B. Daudu administration on Friday, the 31st of August.
Conflict with the interests of the association,
howsoever, in justification of the trust imposed in me.
In justification of the trust imposed in me.
So help me God.
So help me God.
It was a valedictory session of sorts for the immediate past president of the NBA.
I also thank the entire band, for without you, there will be no me. And in coming into the office, I did not expect it to be a tea party. It was challenging, it was exciting, and it was immensely rewarding. It has been a very great pleasure working for you. Like I said, I have no regrets or animosities against anybody, and that all those whose paths are crossed in a manner in which they did not like, I ask for their forgiveness. But the bar must move forward, and you have undoubtedly chosen a worthy person to lead you, in the person of my good friend, my successor in the office, KYPSCN.
Then the swearing-in ceremony.
Okechukwu Emmanuel Wale, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, do hereby accept my election as the President of the Nigerian Bar Association, and do so solemnly undertake to discharge my duties and perform functions in such manner and upon such terms and conditions as are contained in the Constitution of the Nigerian Bar Association. In portions of the foregoing, I shall not allow my personal or any other interest to conflict with the interest of the association, howsoever in justification of the trust reposed in me, so help me God.
Mr. President.
And the new president unveils his plans.
On behalf of myself and my colleagues, I state unequivocally that with humility and every sense of responsibility, we accept your mandate and promise that we shall ensure that your confidence is not misplaced. We heard you, and we heard you very clearly in the course of pre-election interactions. We have noted your deep concerns about the way forward for our once and forever great and noble association, the Nigerian Bar Association. Hold me to this. We will continue to hear you, listen to you, and carry you along. We will run an all-inclusive administration. Several vital issues were thrown up, some of which were increase in practicing fees, conference fees, stamp and seal, welfare of young lawyers, justice sector reforms, etc. We will deal with these issues, guided by your views, and of course, the overall interest of the Nigerian Bar Association. We return to the old practice of 2-day meetings, so that issues will be exhaustively deliberated upon before decisions are reached. The National Executive Committee is the parliament of the Nigerian Bar Association, and so it will cease to be the jamboree it is beginning to be.
That's the much we can take on this episode of the program. Please tune in next week for a fresh episode. I am Shola Soyele. Thank you for watching.